Welcome to the Deep Dive. We unpack the most interesting and useful stuff from your source material.
Yeah, like picking out the good stuff.
Exactly. And today we're diving into The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This book, it kind of changes how we see financial success.
It really does.
Instead of just being good at math, it's more about understanding our own,
Our own behavior.
yeah, our behavior, which can be kind of crazy when it comes to money.
Oh, absolutely. And House starts off with these two stories, like totally different.
Yeah, right away he throws them at you.
Oh,
So we've got Grace Groner,
Grace Groner.
a secretary, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she quietly makes millions by investing patiently for
Oh,
decades.
Grace. Yeah.
Then there's Richard Fuscone,
Just,
Harvard-educated, a financial executive, the whole nine yards.
you'd think he'd have it figured out.
Totally. But he declares bankruptcy.
It's wild, isn't it?
It really makes you wonder, right? Like, does financial expertise actually equal financial success?
It challenges that assumption for sure.
It's like in medicine, you wouldn't think someone with no training could do better than a surgeon.
Right.
But in finance, it happens.
Right.
And Housel says it's because psychology is such a huge factor.
A huge factor.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things is that long-term compounding, it's powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Housel uses this analogy, it's brilliant, with hard drive storage.
Hard drive storage.
Yeah, think how fast we went from like megabytes to terabytes.
Crazy exponential growth.
Totally mind-blowing.
It is.
And it's easy to underestimate that kind of growth.
Yeah, you don't see it happening at first.
Right. Housel even says Bill Gates was like, why would anyone need a gigabyte?
Wow.
So for you listening, the takeaway is patience and consistency.
Those are key.
Even if the return seems small at the beginning,
Absolutely.
they snowball over time.
They really do. Slow and steady, that's what wins in investing.
Definitely. And that leads us to managing emotions, another big one.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
Also talks about enough, finding contentment, not always wanting more.
Easier said than done.
It is. He tells this story, great about Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller.
Oh, I love those guys.
They're at a billionaire's party, right?
Fancy.
And Vonnegut jokes, he's like, this guy makes more in a day than you made from Catch-22.
Ouch.
And Heller goes, yeah, but I have something he'll never have, enough.
Wow.
Powerful, right?
So powerful.
It shows how chasing more can actually make you less happy.
Definitely.
And Housel says, social comparison, that's what fuels this unhappiness.
Yeah, we're always comparing ourselves to others.
Right, and feeling like we're not quite there yet,
Never enough.
which can lead to some bad financial decisions.
Oh, for sure. Impulse buys, risky investments, you name it.
So what's the antidote? Housel says we need to define our own enough.
Enough. What does that even mean?
Yeah, what does it look like for you? What would make you feel content and financially secure?
That's a question everyone needs to answer.
It really is. Okay, another thing Housel talks about is understanding our biases. You know, those things that kind of warp how we see things.
Biases, those pesky biases.
He calls it the anchored to your own history bias.
Interesting name.
It means like our experiences with money, especially early on,
Yeah, our early experience.
they shape how we view money today, and it can cause a lot of misunderstandings.
Especially with people who come from different backgrounds.
Exactly. Like someone who lived through the Great Depression.
They're going to have a different view than someone who, grew up during a boom.
Totally different lenses, right?
Totally different lenses.
And it's hard to see these biases in ourselves.
Yeah, it really is.
So think about it. How might your past with money, good or bad, be affecting your choices now?
That's a good question.
Are you playing it too safe or maybe taking too much risk?
It's all about balance, isn't it?
It is. Now, Housel also digs into pessimism versus optimism in finance.
Ooh, that's a juicy one.
He says pessimism, while it can be attractive, yeah, it often gets more attention than it deserves
I wonder why.
because bad news sells. It's more exciting to hear about doom and gloom than steady growth.
Yeah, it's the drama that gets us hooked.
Exactly. But Housel reminds us that humans are resilient.
We are survivors.
Throughout history, we've been incredibly ingenious, finding solutions.
Always finding a way.
And he suggests that a grounded optimism,
Grounded optimism.
believing in our ability to solve problems and adapt,
I like that.
it's more reasonable and more profitable in the long run.
Makes sense.
So it's not about ignoring risks,
Not at all.
but about balancing them with a belief in our ability to overcome challenges.
It's about finding that middle ground,
Right. But that doesn't mean throwing caution to the wind.
right?
We can't just chase every opportunity.
No, no, no. We still need to be smart about it.
Housel stresses having room for error,
Room for error.
planning for the unexpected, knowing we won't always be right.
We're not perfect after all.
It's about building buffers in our finances and our lives.
Buffers, like shock absorbers for life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how does this translate for you, practically speaking?
Practically speaking.
Think about your finances. Do you have enough flexibility
Flexibility for what?
for a curveball, like losing your job or an unexpected expense?
Yeah, life throws those at us all the time.
It does.
It's all about having that safety net, like financially, but also emotionally,
Yeah, we're not robots, right?
Oh.
Our feelings, they play a huge role in how we handle money.
Especially when things get tough.
Exactly. Which brings us to another trap Housel talks about. Following the crowd.
Oh, the herd mentality.
Especially with investing, it can be dangerous.
Yeah, like everyone's doing it, so it must be right.
Right. We see it everywhere, not just money.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, remember those fidget spinners?
Oh, gosh, the fidget spinners, everyone had one.
But Housel warns, this herd mentality in investing, it can really hurt.
Big time.
Remember the dot-com bubble?
Oh, the dot-com bubble, a classic example.
Companies like Cisco, their stock went through the roof.
Skyrocketed.
Not because of their value, but because everyone was buying in.
Yeah, the hype train.
And when the bubble burst.
People lost a lot of money.
Ouch. So, the lesson here. If an investment feels too good to be true, be careful.
Be very careful.
Do your research. Don't get caught up in the fear of missing out,
FOMO, it's a powerful force.
It is. Now, Housel also talks about this thing, the 3-month bubble.
3-month bubble.
Yeah, it's like, we think what just happened will keep happening.
Ah, so like extrapolating from recent events.
Exactly. Like you win a few hands at the casino.
You feel invincible.
Or the opposite, a couple bad investments.
Yeah.
And you think you'll never make money again.
Yeah, I've been there.
But Housel says mean reversion. It's a powerful force.
Mean reverted.
Things tend to even out over time.
So don't get caught up in the short-term ups and downs.
Right. Focus on the long game.
Makes sense.
This book has so many great stories, too.
Oh, yeah. He's a great storyteller.
There's one about Ronald James Reed.
Ronald James Reed.
He was a gas station attendant and a janitor.
Humble guy.
And he ended up with, get this, an $8 million fortune.
$8 million. Wow.
It shows you don't need some fancy job to build wealth.
You don't need to be a Wall Street hotshot.
Ronald Reed, he lived modestly, but he saved and invested consistently for decades.
Letting that compounding work its magic.
Proof that behavior, it really matters more than...
More than intelligence.
Yes. And that brings us to saving. It's powerful.
Saving. We all know we should save.
We do, but Housel argues your savings rate is more important than your income.
More important than income, really?
And more important than investment returns when it comes to building wealth.
That's interesting.
He uses this analogy with the oil crises of the 70s.
The oil crises, what do those have to do with saving?
Back then, the problem was oil supplies couldn't keep up with demand.
Ah, so not enough oil.
So you'd think the solution was finding more oil, right?
Yeah, that's what I would think.
But it wasn't just about that.
It wasn't.
While oil production did go up,
Okay.
the real solution was on the demand side.
The demand side, what do you mean?
They did things like fuel efficiency and conservation.
Ah, so reducing how much oil we used?
Exactly. Doing more with less.
I get it now.
And that's a powerful lesson for us.
Powerful. How?
We might not control things like market returns.
Yeah, those are unpredictable.
But we can control how much we save.
We can control our spending.
Exactly. By being mindful, making saving a priority, we build a strong base for our future.
Our financial well-being.
Yes. And what I like about Housel, he gets it. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah, everyone's different.
What works for one person?
Might not work for other.
He even says some of his own choices, like not having a mortgage.
No mortgage. That's unusual.
It might not make sense for everyone,
Right.
but for him, it gives him peace of mind.
Peace of mind, that's valuable.
It really is. It's about aligning your money with your values, what's important to you.
Your goals, your dreams.
Exactly. So we've talked about compounding, managing emotions, saving, understanding our biases.
A lot of good stuff.
What other gems does Housel have for us?
Well, he talks about risk and how we see it.
Risk. That's a big one.
He has this thing called Russian roulette syndrome.
Russian roulette syndrome. Sounds intense.
It is. It's like, even if the odds are in your favor,
Okay.
if the downside is really bad, it's just not worth it.
So even if you could technically win at Russian roulette,
You shouldn't play.
the consequences are too awful to even think about.
Exactly. And we can apply this to money.
How so?
Like, an investment might look tempting, but if you could lose everything,
It's not worth the gamble.
better to be safe and protect what you've built.
Definitely. It also talks about a margin of safety,
Margin of safety,
building in buffers, redundancy to protect yourself.
like a backup plan.
It's like building a bridge.
Yeah.
Engineers make it extra strong just in case.
So it can handle more weight than it needs to.
Exactly. So how do we do this with our money?
We'll think emergency funds, diversifying your investments.
Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And not overextending yourself financially.
Living within your means.
It's all about being prepared for surprises, having that backup plan.
Because life, it throws those surprises at us.
It does, and we need to be able to bounce back.
Resilience, both financial and emotional.
We need both.
Absolutely. And speaking of staying the course,
Staying the course.
Housel warns us about being influenced by others, people playing a different game.
Different game.
Yeah, like if you're a long-term investor
You have a different strategy.
and you see day traders making quick moves, don't let them spook you.
Stay focused on your own goals.
Exactly. Know your goals, your risk tolerance, stick to your plan.
It's your journey.
And sometimes that means embracing boredom.
Boredom. With money.
Think about it. The best investments are often the least exciting.
Slow and steady.
No crazy swings, just consistent growth over time.
Like watching paint dry.
Maybe, but it works. This book is full of wisdom, you know?
So much good advice.
It seems like Housel's saying, think long-term, be patient, don't let emotions or other people derail you.
It's about being in control of your own financial destiny.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about making money. It's about using money.
Using it to create a life you love.
Housel talks about the ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want.
That's real freedom.
That's the dream, right? Freedom. It's funny, though, we think of wealth as, like, fancy stuff.
Yeah, the cars, the mansions, all that.
But Housel says true wealth, it's often invisible.
Invisible wealth.
He calls it the man in the car paradox.
Okay, the man in the car paradox?
We see a guy in a Ferrari, we think he's rich,
Makes sense.
but he could be drowning in debt just to look rich.
Keeping up appearances.
It's like that saying, wealth is what you don't see.
I like that.
It's about security, making choices that match your values.
Choices like what?
Traveling, starting a business, just having peace of mind, knowing you're okay financially.
Yeah, that security is priceless.
It's about having options, freedom to choose how you spend your time.
Time is more valuable than money.
It really is. And that takes a mindset shift, you know,
A shift how?
focusing on building wealth, not just showing it off.
Yeah, less bling, more substance.
Exactly. And this reminds me of something else Housel talks about, luck and risk.
Luck. Isn't it all about hard work?
Well, he says we overestimate skill and underestimate chance.
Both in success and failure.
We see someone successful, we think they're super smart,
Yeah, we assume they must have it all figured out.
but luck often plays a bigger role than we admit.
And the opposite too, right? We blame ourselves for stuff that's out of our control.
Totally. It's a reminder to be humble, to acknowledge chance, good and bad.
Humility, that's important.
It is. And this ties back to room for error, but on a bigger scale.
Bigger than finances.
Yeah, like life in general.
Room for error in life. What does that even mean?
Housel says we need it, not just with money, but with how we see the world.
Be more flexible in our thinking.
Because, well, life rarely goes as planned, right?
Tell me about it. Curveballs left and right.
So we need to be ready to adapt, change course.
Be agile.
And that's where resilience comes in, mentally, emotionally.
Being able to handle the tough stuff.
About falling apart, yeah.
So how do we get better at that? At being more adaptable?
Housel has this idea, he says, things that have never happened before happen all the time.
So expect the unexpected.
Kind of, yeah. It means accepting that we can't predict everything.
The future's uncertain.
We need a plan, but be willing to change it.
Roll with the punches.
And see setbacks, even failures, as part of the journey.
Not the end of the world.
Exactly. So we need flexibility, but also discipline, consistency.
That's a tough balance.
It is. It's like having a North Star guiding us, but being willing to adjust our course.
Make corrections along the way.
And remembering the journey is just as important as the destination.
Enjoy the ride.
Well said. So wrapping up our deep dive into the psychology of money, What are the big takeaways?
Big takeaways.
What can our listeners use in their own lives?
I think the main thing is success with money. It's not just about what you know.
It's not about being a financial genius.
It's about understanding yourself, your psychology.
Making choices that match your values, your goals.
It's a personal thing,
It's about having a good relationship with money.
a healthy relationship,
One that's balanced, aware, intentional,
mindful money management,
and knowing that financial well-being is not a finish line, it's a journey.
a lifelong journey.
Well put. So there you have it, a deep dive into the psychology of money by Morgan Housel.
A fascinating book.
We hope you got something valuable from it, something you can use on your own journey.
Apply it to your own life.
And before we go, a huge shout out to our producer, Teacher Ricky.
Teacher Ricky, you're a rock star.
If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications.
So you don't miss our next deep dive.
And let us know in the comments, what should we explore next?
Books, topics, anything.
And tell us where you're listening from. We love hearing from you.
All around the world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep diving deep.